Hi, in this video, we're going to tell you about the loss aversion bias.
Oh, we know a lot about
how
that.
it's being used on you in marketing by marketers, and how you can protect yourself. So stick around. Okay, so I got a game for you.
Oh, I love games.
Yes, we're going to toss a coin.
Okay.
If you lose, you pay me $10.
Well, that's
Okay.
rude.
Now, how much? If you win, how much do you need to win to make it fair?
20.
Bingo! Oh my God, I couldn't have paid you to do that any better. That was that's exactly what most people do. So Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner, ran this test. I think in 1979 is when he first named this, and that's exactly what he found. That most people wanted to be rewarded at least two times. It was actually 2.3 times what the potential loss was, even though it's a 50-50 bet. So probability would say, $1 more. Like, if you were going to lose $10, then but gaining $11, it's a winning proposition, and over time you'd make money.
Right?
Okay, but people, we have you just demonstrated the loss aversion bias perfectly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so this does show up mostly around financial. We didn't flip a coin. The loss aversion bias shows up mostly around financial decisions, and the bigger the potential loss, the bigger the perceived risk, the more it gets triggered.
Right.
The more it comes into play.
Oh, did a trader.
Okay, so perfect introduction again. Thank you so much. Let's look at the idea of a bet. Okay, so you're going to bet $100 for the chance of winning $500. Okay, sound interesting?
Yes.
Okay, you play along at home. So is that interesting?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's add a little bit more. You have a 60% chance of losing $100 and a 40% chance of winning $500.
Okay.
Are you still interested?
I am, because, I like to bet, so, yeah.
Okay, cool. The numbers, you can play with the numbers, but the idea here is there's a formula. Now, when you can do a bet like that where you know the odds, I mean, it's clear, like the 60 and the 40, right?
Okay.
You can calculate the expected gain or loss of that transaction. And it's a real simple formula. You multiply the 0.6 times the 100, and that's a loss of $60, and the 0.4 times the 500, and that's $200. And so 200 minus 60 is $140. So this has a positive expectation of $140. Now, it's still a bet, so you'd have to do it 100 times, but over 100 times you can expect that on average you're going to make $140 on over some period over the transactions.
I like that.
I could be a little off on how the total.
That's Connie's math.
But it's a positive expectation game. You should play that. You should take that bet, yes, without hesitation. But so the point was I framed it by mentioning the loss first, right? You have a 60% chance, that's more than 50-50 on the coin toss, of losing the $100. That tends to trigger the loss aversion bias in most people. Okay. It did some in you, then you hesitated. You had to think about it a little bit.
I did.
Okay? And it didn't seem like as good a deal.
Right.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Not as good as 40%.
And the thing is, now let's go to the stock market, because you mentioned trading. The stock market's a whole different deal because you cannot calculate accurately those percentages. My probability of win or loss and how much and how little. But here's what typically, we can still play the game, and here's what typically happens. So you buy a stock for $100. Okay. Okay, and it goes up to $130. You're a genius, right?
For the moment.
And then it drops.
It pulls back.
It drops by $10. Okay, so now it's $130. Okay? And then it goes up. Sorry, $120. Then it goes up $5. Okay. Back to $125. Cool. Yeah. Oh, then it drops down $10. Right. Now it's what, $115. Right. And it keeps doing that up and down, but every time it drops $10 and then only goes back up $5. And eventually it's at $70. Okay? Now, you started at 100.
Right.
It went to 130, so you had a gain of $30.
Right.
Now you've got a loss of $30.
Okay.
What do you do?
At that point, I would probably hold it and see what happens.
And that's exactly what most people do. They didn't take the win,
Right.
and then they've seen now they have a loss. They don't want to realize or take the loss by selling the stock, even though they're now at a point where they've, it's the loss is greater than the potential gain at this point. It's gone to 130 and fallen away $60. The likelihood of it now turning around and going back above 130,
Oh, that's
kind of
true.
small.
That's true.
But we don't want to take the loss. And so what happens in the stock market with a lot of investors is that, emotional attachment to, I did this and I, it went up to 130, and so they hold on to that hope that it's going to go back, and they will ride it, and eventually, and then it gets down to $40, and then it's like, well, I might as well hold on to it now, and and then it goes to $10 and stays there for 10 years,
Right.
and it's just sunk money that they could have used somewhere else. So there's some,
So
this
take your profits when you can.
this is another effect. I can't give you stock advice. Not licensed, but the loss aversion bias is at work there.
Okay.
In that it's a different form of it, right? But it's not wanting to accept that loss.
Yeah, that ticks me off when I lose.
Okay, now how does this loss aversion bias get used against us? Okay, when I say against us, we all have it. So it's really, it's just taking advantage of our natural tendency, the way we think.
Okay.
It's not a personal attack. Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so think in terms of something going on sale. I'm trying to stay in the frame here.
Ooh, I like sales.
Something going on sale, right?
Right.
And it's only on sale for this week only.
Right.
Okay. So now
how
you've
hard
got
it
a
is.
reduced price. It's good for this week only.
Uh-huh.
What is that? How do you feel about missing out
Oh, my FOMO.
on that sale?
Yeah, my FOMO
right?
goes crazy.
Okay, so whatever amount it's on sale for, we perceive that as a loss if we don't capture it by buying that thing, if it's something we want.
Right.
If it's something we don't want, like if it was, me and a pink tutu went on sale for,
You'd look so good in
half
it.
price, I might look good in it, but I'm not interested in buying it, and so that sale isn't going to affect me, and I'm going to have no sense of loss about it.
Okay.
Okay, but that's the principle at work.
Okay.
The idea that it's going to this reduced price, this bonus, this value is going to get away from us.
Does it make any difference with the percentage?
I would think
sale?
I would think it does, and all this bias affects us all individually based on our past and our past experiences, especially in terms of the like the stock market and things. If we've I can again speak to that. If we've taken a big loss, that loss aversion bias gets accentuated, and it can affect many future transactions. Not only in terms, yes, it did. Not only in terms of once we're in a position, how we manage it, but even our willingness to take a risk.
Oh, yeah.
Once we've been burned or hurt, and that's how we perceive it personally. Take that loss, especially if the loss is bigger than we expected it to be, then that the memory of that pain makes us much less likely to take additional risk, even smaller risks later on.
Right. I can understand that.
Okay. Another interesting fact about this fear gets triggered even stronger when there's cash than with credit card.
I can understand that. Because
Okay.
it's immediate. Whereas credit card, you're looking at anywhere from...
Oh my God, you're nailing everything today. Yes,
you,
it is.
From a month to, from a day to a month out.
Right. It's that immediate gratification, or the immediacy of the cash is real money right now. And if I pay cash for this, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas when I put it on a credit card, that's a month away. I
It's
can deal
almost
with
funny
it.
money.
Almost. And that's the next. So if you're a marketer, you want to make it easy for people to pay with a credit card. Really easy. Because they pay almost 100% more for something with a credit card than
because
cash.
you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to look at your
There's-
wallet and see
there's
nothing
less. Yes, there's just less fear about that. The other thing is,
in there. Or I want miles.
have you ever done one of those? Been involved with a company where you accumulate points somehow? Like you've got a membership, and every month they give you 100 points towards that you can spend towards their products, right? Well, think about, now we talked about cash versus credit card. Now think about those points versus cash.
Right.
You'll spend those points like they're nothing.
Right.
Right? They will automatically charge more for something if you're going to pay by points than cash. Think of mileage, buying airline
mileage.
tickets with miles.
Yeah.
Award
we
miles.
found that out. As much as I love them, yeah.
So how do we avoid this? How do we avoid getting overly influenced by this loss aversion?
Right.
Okay. Well, first thing is slow down. Okay. You got to notice what you're feeling. One of the ways that we get caught up in both sides of this is by getting excited. Get the emotion, get
we've
stirred,
done that once or twice,
and we act on emotion. This is because, I'm sorry, we're not rational, and we make 98% of our decisions with our fast thinking system or our just impulsive. We're on autopilot 98% of the time, and our autopilot system works with these biases automatically. So you got to slow down. You got to pump the brakes just a second. Notice what you're feeling.
Good at that.
Then you want to reframe the transaction in terms of the gain, the potential gain, rather than thinking about the loss. So what am I going to get, and then what's the risk versus, okay, what am I risking, and then try to weigh the gain against that, because you're always going to put yourself in the we're hardwired to survive, to protect ourselves. So you've got to turn it around and look at it from the other side. Okay, so think of an example in terms of framing it like that. Thinking about, I'm going to buy a coffee maker, okay, and I'm going to buy a coffee maker from one of the companies like what's the
Keurig or Nespresso or
Nespresso? Yeah, I mean that's a well-known international company. They stand behind their products, right? So if I I'm going to spend a couple $100, it's an uncomfortable amount because it's a high-end product. They've got higher ones, but I also know that if there's something wrong with it, they're going to probably honor the warranty versus buying it off the back of a truck from a guy I never saw before. Okay, now what about the other thing? A lottery ticket. Okay? Yeah. So versus the coffee machine, I'm paying a couple $100. I know I'm getting something. It didn't cost them $200 to make, but I'm getting something of relatively close value. I'm trying to buy something that's worth more than I'm paying for it.
Right.
Worth more to me than what I'm paying for it. Okay, now look at a lottery ticket. What's the expectation with a lottery ticket?
I'm gonna win.
Yeah, and you've got more chance of being struck by lightning.
True.
Than you do of winning the lottery.
We live in Florida, so could be hit.
That's another judgment that you can use is, if there's an element of this, of a windfall, of some really large win compared to what you're paying, it's probably not a good deal. And this is where your loss aversion should come into play.
And we've had a couple of family members.
These are the ones you want to run away from, and that's where your loss aversion should be helping you.
That wanted to have their lottery tickets as their retirement. Yes.
The other side of taking the other side, looking at it as, okay, if I was, instead of I'm buying this, if I was going to sell this, if I was on the other side of this deal, what would I want to be paid in order to give what I'm giving?
Okay. Oh, probably a whole lot more than what I'm.
And so that tends to balance things out, and that's where you would you could bring that loss aversion back into balance. So it really is about just engaging that slower thinking, thinking a little more carefully rather than reacting emotionally. That's the bottom line. And so that's the loss aversion cognitive bias and how it shows up
back and bites you on the ass.
how it shows up in our lives every day. We are hardwired. We can't avoid these things. completely because they're part of us and they helped us survive at some point. But now we've got to know how to manage them the best we can.
Okay.
So thanks so much for spending a couple minutes with us, and we will see you soon. Bye.